Welcome to the Increda-dental podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Flynn. Our goal is to make a positive impact in the dental field. I have been a dental assistant, a biller, an office manager, a scheduler, a hygienist, and a dental coach, which makes me your biggest fan. My husband was in the military and we traveled all over the United States. I had opportunities to work in many different practices, and I saw incredible practices and practices that had a lot of potential within them. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into the podcast. Welcome to the Increda-dental podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Flynn. Today, we are so excited to have with us john.tointigh. I hope I did that right, John. And
Nailed
also, yes, Kayla Davis from Your Health Matters, but also from Black Horse Marketing. They have years of experience and can give us some highlights and things you can do in your practice that you can apply today, but also they're a great source for someone if you're searching and wanting something different from your marketing. If it's not working, this is a great place to start. So, John, I'm going to turn it over to you. How did you get into this in a couple minutes? Tell us how you got into dental marketing.
Oh, well, my first job when I got out of baseball was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And I was, they're heavy into marketing. It's a big part of their business. And that just kind of happened to be something I was kind of good at. And a couple of guys I worked with, they broke away and started a LASIK surgery practice with a local ophthalmologist. And so they started kind of outfitting their practice with people that they knew and that they could trust and that they liked. And they asked if I would be interested in coming over and running their marketing department. I thought, well, that sounds interesting. Sure, why not? And I mean, long story short, really for that is I kind of got to play with the doctor's money to find out what worked, what didn't, and did a lot of radio, did a lot of TV, had to figure out, copywriting at that point. And so, we got to where we were pretty successful, and a competing practice offered me a job opportunity with them. And I turned them down, and they would come back and they'd sweeten the pot a little bit. And I kind of thought, why am I doing this just for one practice? Why can't if people are wanting me to come work for them, why wouldn't I try to do this on my own? And so Black Horse Marketing was born, and it was an homage to my father, that is his given name, Kiowa Apache. Here in Oklahoma, that's somewhat common. And so the ad agency was born. And fast forward a little bit further, living in a small town in southwest Oklahoma, about 30 miles from Oklahoma City, there's a prominent dental practice here. And the local dentist found out what I did. And he asked me to come help him with his advertising. I said, well, sure, I'll take a look. And if people are taking in the right direction, we'll stick with it. And if not, then we'll try something different. And we did. And so that was my first step into the dental market. Although I had been in the medical market for some years, it was my first opportunity in dentistry. It's kind of grown from there.
Very cool. I love that you saw a need and you met that need. And that's really what business is about. It's about being creative and finding who needs you and what you can do to meet that need. And that's really what it's about. It's about meeting the customer where they are. So thank you so much for sharing that story. So let's dive into some marketing questions because we all have those, right? So what's your approach to growing a dental practice through media marketing? Like, how do you help dentists? Because there's so many people who say, yes, I do media marketing. So what makes you unique? Why are you special?
Well, again, with my background and experience, having been in the medical market and not just dentistry, I've met a lot of people, doctors and other employees or team members, if you will, that work within the practice, and have just kind of learned that every office is just a little bit different. Every doctor has different focuses, things that they enjoy, things that they're really good at, and things that they might need some help with. And so we've just kind of learned to take the 30,000-foot view and say, okay, well, let's look at this from way up high, find out what's good. What do we want to highlight and focus on? And so we tailor everything from that point.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of places. Well, I mean, a lot of pieces. And some of your listeners, if there's any docs listening, they probably know that people say, "Hey, we've got this plan. This is what we do. Wash, rinse, and repeat. It's worked. This we've done this in 1,000 other practices, and it's worked." I mean, if they found lightning in a bottle and have caught it, um, then you might as well just back off and let those guys run the world. But I mean, that's just not reality. Every practice is situated in a different type of an area in a different part of the country, again, with a different personality and culture. And so you need to, again, like you say, meet those people where they are and, build on their strengths and then help them tell the world about it.
Yeah, and I love something that you brought up, and that is that if you market to everyone, you're really marketing to no one. And the fact that you're talking about tailoring it to that office need is very, very valuable because every office has its story, like where the doctor came from, the staff that he attracts to them, where he wants to specialize. Everyone has a unique story, which draws a certain customer that they're looking for, and that's the customer that will buy. Is is the one that they're looking for. And so it's easy to miss that if you go generic and you don't get involved in the story and the history a little bit, but as well as what they desire in that practice and who they want to serve. Because not everyone wants to take care of people that are really scared to come into the dental office. Maybe people want to do cosmetic. Like there's a different need for every office and you can customize it. So that's fantastic. Kayla, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah. When you talk about an approach to media marketing, media can mean so many things, right? Radio, social media, advertising, and newspapers and things. And our specific approach is really that TV angle, which is where people feel like they welcome you into their home when they turn on their TV, right? Like you're on their living room screen. So people already feel that connection with you because they're in their comfort zone when they're watching you. So when we tell people stories and the story of those specific dental practices and their history and what they specialize in, we're doing it in a way that's really comfortable for people and allows them to really connect to those stories. So I think our approach is what John said, where we really get to know people and what they really do well and why they do it so well. But we also are meeting people right there in the living room in their PJs where they're feeling like they can actually connect to you. And I think people watch something like Your Health Matters and think, wow, those look like just regular people that I could trust. And I think that's our approach, is that we dive deep into the story and make it feel really personal and comfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest barriers for patients is they want to feel comfortable and they want to feel like they're going to get personalized care. And this has even increased, especially ever since COVID. People want that personal touch that you see them as an individual. And that's brings so much value to your marketing, to your practice, to your team. And it's a wonderful platform to stand on. John, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, I think Kayla added to it perfectly.
Yeah, she did. All right. So let's do an example. Let's say if I wanted to attract like a high value customer, let's say we wanted to do implants. Um, how would you go about that? What would you do?
Well, I think the most important thing is when you're going after implant patients, you want to focus on people that, have that ancillary income. And so you would target, those people, depending on what your medium is. With TV, it's a little bit more difficult to do. A lot of times you can kind of land depending on the programming. But if you're doing streaming accounts, then now you can really kind of dive in. Streaming is like SEO, but for television, essentially. And so we just start, asking questions of the practice, like, okay, well, who is it that you really want to see? And, as we all know, in the medical markets, people that make those buying decisions, those are going to be the wives, the mothers that decide who we're going to go see, who's the doctor we're going to pick. So, we cater to those folks, but we just deep dive down and depending on the medium that we plan on using, which again, like Kayla said, generally is a broadcast medium, and we place the advertising in places where those folks are going to be watching or listening. And we make sure and we hit them a certain number of times to, you know, trip that buying trigger, if you will.
Yeah.
Make
I think
make that emotional connection with the office. Just like Kayla said, I really like that person. That's who I want to go see for my treatment.
And I love what you said, John, because people don't necessarily buy what they need. They buy what they're emotionally attached to. And that is really an interesting but kind of scary fact about us as humans that we buy on an emotional basis. And when you bring it into their living room and you make it personal, they're more likely to pull the trigger, as well as it doesn't take just one touch. Sometimes it takes us several introductions for them to be like, I've been thinking about it. It's time for me to call this person or to email them and to get scheduled for treatment. So it does take a couple different times to get them involved and ready to move forward in the practice. So
Right. Well, you mentioned that because trust is something that has to be built. You can't do it in one introduction, but trust is a type of emotion for somebody. So making that emotional decision, they're going to base it off of somebody that they trust. And that's a part of what we do in the copywriting process is we want to make sure that the viewer gets to trust our doctor or the practice. And that's how they make the decision. I trust that person. I'm emotionally attached to that person. And, if I'm going to, spend a bunch of money and have somebody, working on my smile, the first thing that people see when they meet me, I want to make sure it's somebody that I can trust. And that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah, trust it's what moves them forward with treatment. Is if they feel that they can trust you, they will move forward. So tell me, how do you create your custom content? How do you go about doing that?
Well, that's the tricky part of it. Again, that's where we get to know the people that we're working with. And if they have a certain type of a vernacular, if they have a certain, exuberance in their personality, if they're a really affable character, well, we want to, try and, like I said, bring out the best in those people. And so we write content that it's kind of like we put words in their mouth. This is what we want you to say, but I want you to say it with your personality and with the type of candor that you have, so people can see that. So the personality and how inviting people are on screen is a big part of building that trust. But having the right verbiage and delivering it in the right way is the second part of that. And so it kind of depends on, like you were asking before, if someone wants to advertise that they are doing dental implants, whether they be single or that they do on, all on 4, all on X, or if they want to do sedation. There are a lot of people that are afraid of going to the dentist to some level, and offering the opportunity to uh, jam a few patients or a few visits into one, utilizing sedation or making somebody feel comfortable and they can take a nap and sleep through the process, is attractive. So it really just kind of depends on what they're wanting to market. But for the most part, we just, again, getting to know the doc, we want to make sure that we write things that is a reflection of them, but we deliver a message within 30 seconds.
If you talk about custom, what we're doing is already different, right? So it's not your typical infomercial. It's not your typical lifestyle show. Just the platform that we build through Your Health Matters, it's custom because it's our own show that we can twist and turn however we like based on that practice's needs and wants. So when people turn on their TV and they change that channel, it's already a custom experience for them because we're talking about their community and people in their community. And we're talking to the type of patient that is most likely to say, yes, that is what I need.
Yeah, I love that because that's what you want. You want the patient saying, "That's exactly what I've been looking for." Or sometimes though, it's sad but true. A lot of patients, if you ask them, if you meet someone on the street, they're like, "Who's your dentist?" And most patients will be like, "I don't know. I don't have a dentist." And they do. They just don't know who it is. And so if they build that relationship, then they're going to know who their home is, if you will, who their dental home is, and that's really powerful. So I appreciate that. So when you highlight the dentist, do you also highlight the team or the technology? Like, what do you do to help people feel like that, build that trust?
Yeah, that's a good question because it really depends on the practice. And, we've got, uh, people that we've worked with in the past that say, I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have the hygienist that I have. People love coming to see her. They will cancel if she's not there or whatever, but which is great as long as they're going to be a long-term employee. I mean, that's the danger of it, right? Because people, uh, things change. Maybe they have a baby and they decide that they want to be a stay-at-home parent or something like that. So you got to be careful of things like that. And at the end of the day, the doctor's name is the one that's on the door. And so most of the time, we will be very heavy on the owner doctor. There are times where we'll also have the associates involved, and they might be a mainstay. It might be a great team environment for the two docs or three docs, whatever it might be. So for the most part, it would be the doctor, but there are times and places where you might make a video, let's say, that's not necessarily a commercial, that you can highlight your team. We've done some 90-second videos where we do highlight the team members primarily. They talk about how long they've been there and what they love and what they do in the practice. And they put that on a homepage for like Facebook or their website. And that just kind of becomes their digital first impression, if you will, if somebody lands on their website. So, and it comes to advertising, primarily the doctors, but there are times and places where you can highlight your team members.
I love that you mentioned that you can also put it on Facebook. You can take this media and it can serve any platform. Is there a limit on what platform this can serve?
No, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's super valuable because different patients are going to be watching TV. Different patients are going to be on social media. Like you kind of have to try it out and see where is your patient, your ideal patient. Where do they hang out? Where do they spend their time? And how to involve them in your media and how to interact with them. Um, so what do you have any special things about what you guys do that you want to share? Like that makes you unique. I mean, already you're making your story unique because you're not doing one shoe fits all. You're making a custom media that highlights where the dentist wants to take their practice, which is fabulous because a dentist who has a vision of where they want to go and you guys helping them get where they want to go, yeah, that's a custom tailored suit, right? It looks like a regular suit looks good, but a custom tailored suit, that looks amazing.
Exactly. Well, that's actually kind of a two-tiered answer. And a part of that involves, primarily me, and the other part of that is, going to be largely Kayla. So I'll start with my part of it first and let her kind of like, tie it all together at the end. Um, a lot of practices, um, they want to get their message out there. They're not really sure exactly how to do it. Or um, a lot of the things that we hear is like, I've been on, doing this SEO, been trying to get rank number one. And it's each practice is trying to outdo the other. And every time you do that, you just, throwing more money at something. And it might work until the other practice outspins you. And round we go. And, we say, well, why don't you, bring a knife, to a fist fight? And what we mean by that really is, okay, well, let's put you on TV or put you in a medium where no one else is, but you still get a lot of eyeballs. And so that's essentially what we do as an advertising agency when we, utilize broadcast media. And it's scary because it is an unfamiliar territory for most practices. It is a little bit of a leap of faith, and it is an expense, but you're already spending, a bunch of money, utilizing SEO and whatever other, direct mailers, other things that are out there that everybody else is already doing. So we're just providing an opportunity and an expertise where, you're making an investment in your practice, doing something that pretty much no one else around you is going to be doing. So we're offering an opportunity to have kind of an unfair advantage. And where Kayla comes in is, we, like you mentioned, Your Health Matters is designed to look like a lifestyle TV show, when in fact it's really an infomercial. It is an advertisement that the practice tailors, and we talk about all the things that they want to talk about, highlight employees or procedures, things within the practice. They could tell their stories. We've had patient testimonials, and it really comes together great. And where Kayla comes in and where she is the game changer is that, she has the background in media, having been a news anchor and reporter. She knows how to talk to people and pull out the information that the viewer is going to want to know. I was just going to ask that. Oh man, I'm so glad she asked that question. And it's conversational and it's easy and it's very natural. Nothing about it is forced. And so the content that we create off of that is a very, very watchable and engaging show. And how she does it, that's where Caitlin's going to have to come in and tell you.
I think I just care. I usually get to know the people before the camera ever starts recording. And I realize these are people who you typically really care about their patients. And I want to show that off. And I find the little things that make them tick, that make them excited. And then I lead my questions into that. And typically it's really simple to talk about the things that people love, that dentists love. Maybe being on camera is scary, but what they do and why they do it is not scary. That's what's kept them going for years and years and years. So it's helped them get their degree and things. So I find that really I just care. And the things that I'm asking about are probably what viewers at home are wondering too. I'm not a dentist. I don't have any dental experience in my life besides sitting in the chair myself and getting my teeth worked on. And so it just comes with a lot of my own curiosity and the patience that I have to get to know providers before we even press record. And if I could say anything about being unique, it's that video is king. As a healthcare marketer, that is how people get to know you. Your goal with any kind of marketing is for patients to know who you are before they ever walk into your door. And the best way to show that off and for people to understand more than just a nice little blurb on a website or on a Facebook message is to hear your voice and to feel the way you say things and why you care so much. And something like Your Health Matters is a great way to pull that information out of people in a way that feels so natural and fun to be a part of as a viewer.
Yeah. So now if you have a dentist or a team member that's nervous, like I don't want to be on TV. I don't have a TV face. I don't have a TV voice. I'm scared. Like, how do you make them comfortable? What do you do to help them? Because they're just as uncomfortable as a patient in a way in
right.
media.
Yeah, right. Totally. I think what helps is that a lot of it isn't talking directly to the camera. You don't have to be the next news anchor. You just have to be yourself and talk to me. And again, we build that rapport before we ever start recording. So people are already used to talking to me. I've already cracked some jokes. I've showed them that I'm a normal person. They can be themselves too. The best way to get people comfortable is to know that you don't have to be perfect. We have the power of editing. If you say a sentence one way and you decide, hold on, let me redo it, that's great. Let's do it again. And as many times as you need till you love what you're saying and we agree. And John's really good at taking a thought that a provider, doctor, dentist, anyone might have and tweaking it to perfection and having, it's still authentic to them and the way that they speak, but it's just a little bit better in TV quality. So I think between our team, we're really good at coaching people. And also it just helps when you don't have to talk right to the camera. You can just have a conversation.
Yeah. Sorry, John, were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, I was going to say we actually, a great example. We were just in Cookeville, Tennessee, shooting an episode of Your Health Matters. And we did one of those videos where we highlight the team members and they talk about, what they do in the practice and how long it's been there. And of course, they're all saying, I don't want to be on camera. I'm too uncomfortable. And, but again, just like Kayla said, we just have a conversation, and they open up, and by the end of it, they're like, that was fun. I had a great time doing that. And they see the video and they're like, this turned out so well. That was so much fun. And it turns into from a fear into something like, I would do that again in a heartbeat. I had so much fun.
Yeah. And you
And
can, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, John.
well, I was gonna say, and that's really kind of the point. We want everyone to feel comfortable in front of the camera because we want their authentic selves to come across in the video. And that's the goal. So when they say that we had a good time, then that's on top of getting great footage, but that's really the goal.
Yeah.
The hardest part with video is just getting started. You just
I
gotta
think-
get that push go.
I think that's true. And Kayla, you brought up a really good point that I wanted to point out is that you said that you don't have dental experience, but I think that's actually very good. What is smart, because too often we get stuck in our jargon, our dental terminology, and people don't know what we're saying. And so when we say something, you can say like, remind me, what does that mean? Or I'm not sure on that. And because we lose people when we use too much of our medical terminology, and it doesn't make people feel comfortable. It makes them feel like they're not smart enough, that that they shouldn't ask a question. And that's the last thing we really want for people to feel, is we want them to feel welcomed and to be able to ask those questions that they really don't know. So I appreciate that having that coming from that view is powerful, because it opens the door for the layman, if you will, the regular patient who you're seeking. So I think that's fantastic. And I wanted to point this out. I asked you if you guys keep track of marketing, and you said, go ahead, John, fill in the blank.
Well, yeah, rather than keeping track of numbers like most companies will say, well, we've generated this many phone calls, to the practice. And there is value in that. But, what's really important is where the patient actually books the appointment and they come in and they accept treatment. That is where the real value is. And, and that goes back to, again, how do you connect and build trust with that potential new patient, and then have them come in ready to accept treatment, right? Because if their perceived value of the dentistry, exceeds, their expectations by just a little bit, they're going to make that emotional decision and they're going to book treatment. Um, Perhaps the best way or the best compliment that I've gotten as an advertiser is, I asked the doc one time, like, hey, how are things going? How do you think that we're doing? I mean, you're booking, you're having almost the same number of phone calls versus the TV advertising you had before, but you say things are different. And the answer I got was, well, I considered 2 out of every 10 patients that walk through the door is what the dentist considered to be a quality patient. He said, right now, I consider 6 out of 10 patients to be quality patients. So the numbers, although they didn't increase as far as phone calls or bookings, but that did increase, though, was the value of the patient. What is that person worth when they come in through the door? And if they're accepting larger treatment cases, well, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, I would think, if, at least in his scenario it was. There might be practices that have different goals, and numbers are going to be the king. But for us, the way that we measure the success is, how ready are the people to accept treatment, and how much larger are those cases.
Yeah. And John, I just wanted to point out, I talked to a couple other marketing people, and as what was happening, and when I talked to the offices, is the marketing company was counting every new patient that came in as someone that came in from their marketing. And it turned out it was skewed. It was wrong. And they were actually not bringing in as many patients as they were leading the practice to believe. So what you do with Black Horse Marketing is really, I think, speaks volume of your integrity, but also what you bring to the practice, because you have the practice keep track, because that's when they're going to know how well the system is working, because then they can come back to you and say, this is what's working, this isn't working, and you'll adapt to them, right? You'll adapt to their needs.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that compliment, because I mean, the truth of it is, and I think you probably know this, and what you do for practices is that it's all connective tissue. I mean, the phone ringing, that's just a part of the process. The person answering the phone needs to be a rock star and needs to be great at handling the phone and getting that appointment booked. And when they come in, hopefully they have, like a new treatment coordinator who takes them through the process, builds more and more trust with that patient because they're with them the longest. And hopefully by the time the doc comes in, I mean, the patient's already pretty much made their decision. The doc is just basically ratifying what, his professionals have been talking to them about the whole time. You're going to take great care of you. You're going to have a beautiful smile. The doc comes in and says, this is how we're going to do it. And then just go, great. But if any part of that process is broken down, then the entire experience isn't going to go the way you want it. So that's why, I rather than I focus on specific numbers, I want to know, what is it like inside the practice? How does it feel when the phone's ringing and people are more ready to book? The person answering the phone knows that. They're like, man, these people that are on the other end are just calling in like gangbusters. And they come in and they're super excited about being there, ready to meet the doc and having a great experience. I mean, the whole office knows it. And I think that is the greatest measure, is whenever, that feeling is palpable about how well the experience is going, not only for the patient, but for the team.
Yeah. That's fantastic, John. I really appreciate you and Caleb being here. And would you go ahead? I'm going to include in the show notes your website, but just go ahead and give it a shout out if you would, please.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us, no problem, at yourhealthmatters.tv, right? So not .com, yourhealthmatters.tv, and learn a little bit more about what it is that we do and how we do it. It's a unique and fun approach. And then just the advertising arm of what we do, because we are an ad agency at the end of the day. It is the blackhorsemarketing.com. Sort of like those snobby
Yeah.
Ohio State football fans. It's the Ohio State University. Well, we are the Black Horse Marketing.
All right. If you're not an Ohio State fan, please don't be offended. Okay. But no, I love it. Thank you. Is there anything else that we need to include in today's podcast?
Well, I think if anything, if a practice or a doctor is asking themselves about what they should be doing, or how they might approach, I would always say, if you decide that maybe looking into doing something a little different than what you've been doing, always talk to at least 3 or 4 people. I mean, you may call and talk to me and we might not jive well, and that's okay. I've met a lot of people in my life that I don't want to spend a lot of time with. But I've met a lot of people that I really do like. And, we've done a lot of cool things together, Kayla included. I met Kayla's fiance randomly at the airport, and we bonded over baseball. He was a college baseball player. I was a college baseball player. We both really loved the sport and had our favorite teams. And, just like they say in Yountville, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, Kayla's on board. So you just never know. Talk to as many people as you can, because again, you might find that one hidden gem of a team that can take your practice to the next level.
So, and it led me to another question. When you come and visit with them, how many hours do they need to commit to you to be for the recording and for things to move forward? If they want to do like a 90-second commercial and some social media, how much time are we talking here? Because time is one thing that is non-refundable, and it's really valuable, especially for dentists who own their own practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we kind of had this experience recently. I think it's about setting and managing the expectations. I mean, if you're talking about doing a 90-second spot, well, you got to coordinate the whole office for that. If that's the video that you're talking about. 30-second commercials, it just really kind of depends, because, unlike getting to sit and visit with Kayla, you're staring into a camera. And we have a teleprompter. And again, we have the power of editing. So it just really kind of depends on how many takes, is it going to require for us to kind of get there. But again, because of editing, we use two cameras. So if you read one sentence really well, if we can switch to the other camera and get another sentence that you said from 3 takes ago, and mash them all together. So, I mean, it takes time. So if they did, let's say 4 or 5 commercials in a day plus a 90-second video, I mean, that's probably a good 6 hours.
Okay.
Because we also have to set up, you need more than one outfit, because you can't wear the same thing on every commercial. And plus, we'll move our equipment, change backdrops. If you add an episode of Your Health Matters in there, it's a solid 12-hour day.
Really? Wow.
Well, because we are shooting, I mean, it's a 30-minute show, so we might have multiple hours of content for us to sift through. And we're going to shoot in the lobby. We're going to shoot in the chair. We're going to shoot in your lab or your sedation suite or out in the parking lot. We like to go around to the local hotspot around town and highlight that. So, just to try and like build up the interest in the town itself. But then we, highlight the practice. And so it's a long day. But
that's one day, right? That's one day for a lot of content that you can use for a long time, and it doesn't feel boring to people.
right.
It's a variety of stuff that you're getting in just one day.
Well, and I think the biggest advantage to what Kayla is saying is that, it's only one day. But if you wanted to shoot, there are other infomercials out there that focus on dental practices, but you have to travel to those locations. So how many days of production is a dental office going to be out while they travel to this place and shoot just an episode of an infomercial? Whereas when we come to you, we usually do it over a weekend or a time or a day where you're not even open. So you're not missing any production. You sleep in your own bed and you have hours of footage that you can utilize for as an infomercial, TV commercial, streaming, radio, and then tons, of course, of social media or other online presence, video marketing that comes with it. So, I mean, it is a massive amount of information and hours of video that you get out of it. So it's a full day, but when you look at it, rather than traveling, you get to sleep in your own bed, and we do it in a day, and you get a whole lot more out of that.
Yeah. And you get to see the practice, the inside of the practice, which is what patients want to see, because they want to know what it looks like and kind of feels and smells like. And it helps them to feel that little intimacy, if you will, walking into that practice without actually walking into it. So
And that's huge where Kayla is. She's terrific. You brought up smell, like those are things that she notices and points out, because like you said, she's not in the dental world primarily. And so her natural curiosity hones in on those little things. And that's a huge advantage for her.
Well, John and Kayla, thank you so much for your time. You guys have a wonderful day.